Now we'll start with the sixth module of computer organization. In this module, we will be dealing with the cache memory and virtual memory. So these are the two techniques that is being used to increase the speed of operation as well as to increase the storage capacity. Now in part 1 we will see the operation of cache memories, and in the later session we will see how does this virtual memory concept works along with the computer architecture or the processor architecture. Now we will see what is this particular cache memory and what is the usage of this cache memory in the computer architecture. So the processors are normally faster in operation compared to the memory system. Okay, so if you want to have the advantage of the processor speed, the available memories are not that faster as the processor. So we are going to have a concept known as the cache memory, a physical memory which is located. This cache memory is located very close to the processor, the CPU. Either it might be in the same CPU chip itself, or it might be in the motherboard, which is very close to the processor. And the connection between the processor and cache is through a dedicated data bus. So the cache memory is smaller. It is a very faster memory compared to the normal memories, and it is located so close to the processor. Okay, so the instructions and data can be read from it or can be returned to it much fastly or much quickly compared to the normal RAM. So the processor need not be aware of the cache memory. So what he will do is he will be normally accessing the data from the main memory, but internally the cache will help the entire system to speed up the operation. Now, as I said, that cache memory is a physical memory which is located very close to the CPU. So, as I said in the previous slide, since the speed of the main memory is very low compared to the speed of the modern processors, we are going for the cache memory. So, it is a solution to improve the performance. Now, how does this cache memory operates? So, the cache memory operates with the property locality of reference. So in general, the most of the instructions in a localized area of a program or the in a localized area is being executed repeatedly during a period of time, and the remaining instructions are not that frequently accessed. So in normal cases, in generally, the programs or the instructions in a localized area is being executed repeatedly, and the remaining instructions are not that accessed frequently. So if you can bring those instructions which are executed so frequently to the cache memory, now the processor can access those instructions from the cache memory, and this will improve the performance of the entire system. Why? Because most of the instructions that are executed so frequently will be present in the cache, so processor can take the instructions directly from the cache, which will improve the speed of operation. Now the locality of reference is of two types or two ways. The first one is the temporal locality of reference. It means that the recently executed instructions is likely to be executed again very soon. So sometimes the instructions which are executed near recently will be executed again soon. So if you bring those instructions to the cache, the speed of the operation will get increased. The processor can take those instructions directly from the cache. So that is known as temporal reference, locality of reference. Coming to the spatial locality of reference, what it means by spatial locality of reference is that the instructions which are nearer to the recently executed instructions are likely to be executed soon. I'll explain it once again. The instructions which are nearer to the currently or the recently executed instructions are likely to be executed soon. So if you are able to bring those instructions to the cache, that such that the processor can access those instructions directly from the cache, which will again improve the performance. So there are two locality of reference. The first one is the temporal and second one is the spatial locality of reference. Okay, now you can see that in the diagram you can see the processor, the main memory. In between you are having the cache memory, which is located so closer to the processor. So those instructions which are likely to be executed soon will be brought from the main memory to the cache, such that the processor can access those instructions faster compared to the other instructions. Okay, and when you take the cache memory, if you are not going to bring a single instruction directly from the memory, you will be bringing a block of data from the memory. So you will be using the concept block or cache line. Okay, so when the processor gives a read or write request, the contents of the block memory, block of word, are transferred to the cache. Okay, now when you bring a data from the main memory to the cache, when you do the updations, it should get updated both in the main memory and the cache memory. We will be seeing different techniques related to that. So the correspondence between the memory, the data in the main memory, and the data in the cache. See, we are taking a copy from the main memory and keeping in the cache. Okay, so the correspondence between this data in the cache memory and the corresponding data in the main memory is known as the mapping function. Okay, now suppose as I said that the cache memory, the size of the cache memory is small. So suppose the cache memory is full, and if you want to update the cache memory with the new data, so in that case we will have to replace few locations in the cache, and the decision to remove which data is being done using the replacement algorithm. So as I said earlier, the processor need not know about the existence of cache. Processor, what he sees is that he is going to access the data from the main memory, but internally there is a cache memory. So the control circuitry will take care of all this operation. Now we will see the read-write protocols used in the cache memory. Now if you are going to read or write something from the, if the processor is going to read or write something from the main memory, if that address data is present in the cache memory, if the data is being brought from the main memory to the cache memory, whether you're going to read or write, if that data is present in the cache, it is known as cache hit. So it will be a read hit or write hit based on whether you're going to read or write. And if that data is not present in the cache, that process is known as cache miss. It will be a read miss or write miss. Now we'll see these concepts in detail. Now you're going to see the cache hit. So in the read operation, the main memory is not involved. So when we do the write operations, the system may proceed in two ways. It may be either using the write through protocol, or it may be using write back, or it is also known as copy back protocol. So we'll see what is this write through protocol. In this case, when the processor is going to write something into the main memory, okay, now when the processor gives a write request, it data is being present in the cache, the address data, the corresponding data in memory, main memory is present in the cache. So right now the data will be updated in the cache, and that corresponding data in the main memory also will be updated simultaneously. Why? Because the content in the cache is a copy of data in the main memory. So when you're going to update the cache, simultaneously that corresponding data in the main memory also will be updated. So this particular method is known as write through protocol. This particular method is simpler, but the thing is that you are unnecessarily writing into the main memory, because you are updating the cache as well as you are updating the main memory. Now coming to the next protocol, it is known as a write back or copy back protocol. In this case, when the processor is going to write something into the address, a memory address, if that address is being the corresponding address and data is present in the cache, it will only update the cache location, and there is a flag associated with it. That flag will be marked such that giving an indication that this particular cache location is being updated. Now later, when that particular data, the updated data in the cache is being replaced, in that case the data, when it is being replaced from the cache, at that point the corresponding memory location will be updated. Okay, so only when that particular data is being removed from the cache or is being replaced from the cache, at that time only the corresponding data will be updated in the main memory. So that are the two write protocols, write through protocol and write back protocol, when you are having a write hit. Now coming to the cache miss or read or write miss. So when the address word in read operation is not present in the cache, suppose the address of the processor is going to address a word or going to read a word, and that word is not present in the cache, and that is known as read miss, basically a cache miss. It is known as a read miss. Okay, so in that case what happens is that normally a block of word, that corresponding word will be copied from the main memory into the cache. After the entire block of data is being loaded into the cache, that particular word which is being requested by the processor will be given to the processor. That's how it normally works. There is one more way, an alternate way, in which when the processor gives a read request, and if a read miss happens, that means if that data is not present inside the cache, in that case the data will be sent to the processor directly, as well as it is read from the main memory. That is known as load through or early restart method. In that case, before updating the cache itself, that data will be directly sent to the processor. Now regarding the write miss, if the when you're going to do a write operation, the processor is going to do a write operation, if the addressed word is not present in the cache, it is known as write miss. In that case, there are two protocols that has been followed. The first protocol is known as the write through protocol. In that case, the information is being directly updated into the main memory. Okay, so in that case we are not dealing with the cache. If a write miss happens, the information, the processor will directly update or write the information into the main memory. In the case of the second protocol, which is known as a write back protocol, when a write miss happens, when the data is not present in the cache, in write back protocol, the block containing the address data will be first brought from the main memory or copied from the main memory into the cache, and the desired word in the cache. Right now the data has been present in the is being brought to the cache, it's being present in the cache, it is being written with the new information. Now we will see few terms associated with the caches. The number of data words that can be held by the cache is known as the capacity C. And so a cache memory is being specified by the capacity, and inside the cache the data has been arranged into different sets. Okay, so you will be having a number of sets which is being represented by S, and the block size, the small letter b, and number of blocks, the capital letter B, and the degree of associativity is known as is been represented as N. Okay, now what data is held in the cache? Okay, so when the cache fetches one word from the memory, in that case it may not be a one word, it won't be normally, it won't be fetching one word, it will be fetching a group of words, a set of adjacent words. Okay, and that set of adjacent words is known as a cache block. So normally when the cache is going to copy some data from the main memory, it won't be copying a single word. Instead of that, it will be fetching a group of words, a group of adjacent words, and uh, that group is known as a cache block. Okay, and the number of words inside this cache block is known as block size. And the capacity C, if the cache is having a capacity C, you can say you are going to have C by B blocks. That much of blocks will be present inside the cache. Okay, so as we have seen in the previous slides, we have seen the temporal locality and the spatial locality. So just a repetition, if you are using a variable in a program, the same variable is likely to be used again, and that is known as temporal locality. And suppose if an element in an array is used, other elements in the same array are likely to be used again, and this particular concept is known as spatial locality. Now inside the cache, you are going to have the cache is being arranged into sets. So you'll be having S sets, and each set will hold a single block of data or n blocks of data. Okay, so inside the cache is organized as sets, and inside each set you may have one block or n number of blocks of data. Okay, so the relationship between the address of data in the main memory and the location of that data in the cache is called as mapping. Okay, so you are having a data in the main memory, and the data is being copied to the cache memory, and the relationship between these two data is known as mapping. Okay, and there are different mapping techniques. The first one is the direct map cache. In that case, each set, as I said, that the inside the cache, you are going to have a number of sets. Okay, so in direct map cache, each set exactly contain one block. So inside a set there is only one block, so you can say it as this cache is having S equal to B sets. Okay, now in this case a particular main memory address maps to a unique block in the cache. So this will be more clear when you see the direct mapped cache in the coming slides. The next way of mapping is known as n-way set associative cache. In this case, in a particular set it contains n blocks. In direct, you are having in one set you are having one block. Right now in n-way set associative, each set contain, inside each particular set you are going to have n blocks. So that's why it is known as n-way set associative. Okay, but still the address still maps to a unique set. Now you can say that you are having S equal to B by N sets. Okay, now the third method is known as fully associative cache. In that case you are going to have only one set. You are just having one set, and inside that particular you are having only one set in the cache. Now the data can go to any one of the B blocks in the set. So this particular concept is known as fully associative cache. This can also be known as B-way set associative. Why? Because you are having single set, and inside the single set you are having all the blocks. Okay, so we are seeing the direct map cache in which in one set one block. Now coming to the n-way set associative, you are having sets, and inside one set you are going to have n blocks. And coming to full associative, the number of sets is only one. Okay, you are having only one set and all the blocks are being present inside that single set. Now we will take a case study. You are going to have a MIMS memory system in which you are having a 32-bit addresses and you are having 32-bit words. Okay, so when we are considering, since the memory is a byte addressable, right now you are considering a word in this case. So you can now when you are considering in terms of words, you can say that you are having 2 raised to 30 words. Okay, we are having 2 raised to 32 bytes, but we are considering the words, you are going to have 2 raised to 32 words. Sorry, 2 raised to 30 words. Now we will see in detail about the direct map cache. So as we have seen, in direct map cache you are going to have a single block in a particular set. So the number of blocks is equal to number of sets. Okay, so the address in block 0 of the main memory maps to set 0 of the cache. So similarly, the address in block 1 of the main memory maps to set 1 of the cache. Now we will see in detail how this particular process works. Okay, now you can see the main memory, which is having 2 raised to 30 words and its corresponding address in the left side, and in the right side you can see the cache memory. As the size of the cache memory is small, in this example you can see that you are having 2 raised to 3. That means you can have 8 words in the cache memory. Okay, so in this case you are going to have 8 sets in your cache memory, and each set is being represented using 3 bits. So starting from 000 to 111, you are having 8 sets starting from set 0 to set 7. Okay, so you are having a 2 raised to 3 word cache, means you are having 8 cache. You can have 8 words in the cache. So that's the size of your cache memory. And coming to the main memory, you are having a main memory of size 2 raised to 30 words. Okay, now as I said that in direct map cache, a particular set can have a single block. Okay, now we'll decide what are the possibilities. Okay, now you can see in the diagram, if you take the addresses of the words, now starting from all zeros, and the next one is 00, you can see the corresponding addresses mentioned over there. And in that address, since you are using a word address over here, the last 2 bits will be always 0, that you have seen in the previous modules. When you are considering a word address, I am not speaking about the byte address. When you are considering the word address, the last 2 bits will be always 0. Okay, now the next 3 bits, so from the bottom you can see it is next 3 bits which is being represented in the blue color. It is 000, above one is 001, above that it is 010, 011, 100, 111, 110, 111. So you can see 8 possibilities. Above that it again starts with 000, 001, it goes. So you can divide the entire memory into 8 sets based on this particular 3 bits represented in the blue color. Okay, the address of the main memory. Now you can see in the main memory, if you're considering the set 001, the main memory uh, 004, which is being mentioned or given in the blue block. Similarly, if you go up, you can see the memory location 024. Further you go up, you can see the memory location FFFE4. These three locations, there are much more locations, but in the figure you can see three blue blocks which is having the block address as, or the set address as 001. Now these datas, these blocks or these words, in the example you can see 004, the blue block. Going up you can see 024, again the blue block. Going further up you can see FE4, the blue block. All these three blocks, there are much more, but in the figure you can see only three, are having, if you see the addresses of it, it is having this particular 3 bits as 001, 001, 00. So these datas can occupy the cache in set 1, where the set 1 is having the tag as 001. So these datas which is having the address as 001 can only go to set 1. Now you can see the gray colored block. The gray colored block, it is having the address 010. Now if you go to the left side of that, you can see its corresponding tag is, in the blue color it is 100. Now you go up, when you see the memory address FFF0, its corresponding address tag is 100, the gray colored one. So these datas can only go to the set 4. Okay. You will see one more example. If you are considering the first address, the memory address all zeros, its corresponding 3 bits, when you differentiate that particular 3 bits, you can see it is 000. Going up, you can see the location memory 0020 is having again 3 zeros. Now going further up, you can see FFE0 is again having 000 in the blue color. So these three sets, there are much more, is having the tag value as 000. Though these sets can only, these blocks can only map to the set 0. So that's how this particular mapping process happens. So you are having a cache of size 8 words, and each set, you can see from the main memory what are the possible blocks or words that can be moved to the cache based on the particular sets, the 3-bit set. So many addresses map to a single set. Okay, since the size of the cache is limited, there are many possibilities, and we have seen those possibilities based on the address, the 3-bit address. So in this case you can say that many addresses map to a single set. Now the cache will not only keep the data, it will also keep the track of the address. So the cache memory holds the data from the main memory as well as the address of the main memory. Okay, now as you have seen in the previous slide, the address of the main memory, the first 2 bits are always zeros, since it is the word address. The remaining 3 bits are being used to specify the set address. The remaining 27 bits will remain as the tag. Okay, that indicates which of the many possible addresses is held in that particular set. Now we will see the corresponding fields, the address fields in detail. Now you take the cache field for any particular address. In this slide, it has been taking the address of FFFFFE4. taken an example address. Now if you take that particular memory address, you can see the first two bits, the LSB bits, are the byte offset field, which is always 2 zeros. Okay, the next 3 bits decides which it basically decides or indicates the set to which the address is being mapped. So the next 3 bits are known as the set bits. Based on that, the data will be mapped to a corresponding location in the or a corresponding set in your cache. Okay, so these 3 bits are very important. These 3 bits are known as the set bits, which indicate the set to which the address maps in the cache. Okay, and that depends upon right now it is 3. Why? Because in the cache you are having 8 locations, and suppose in the cache if you are having 16 locations, this set bits will be having a size of 4 bits. Okay, so that depends upon the size of the cache. Since it is an 8 location cache, it is the set bit is being represented as 3 bits. Okay, now the remaining 27 bits are known as the tag bits, that indicate the memory address of the data stored in the given cache. So when the data is being moved from the main memory to the cache memory, you will be moving the data. Along with the data, you will be moving this 27 bit tag bits. Okay, now sometimes if you are not loaded into the anything into the cache memory, initially it might be having some junk values. So in order to differentiate the actual value or a meaningful value with a meaningless value, you are having a valid bit. If that valid bit is 0, it means that the content inside the cache is a meaningless data. If that valid bit is 1, it indicates that it is a meaningful data. Now we will see how to map or how to read or write a data from the cache if a processor gives a request. Okay, now we will see if a processor, when the processor gives a request, how does it understands whether the data is being present inside the cache. If the data is present inside the cache, it is known as a cache hit. If it is not present, it is known as the cache miss. Okay, now we are considering a cache memory, a 8 entry cache memory. So normally the cache memory is being made using SRAM. Now in this example you can see a diagram in which you are having a cache memory in which 8 sets are there. Okay, so you can see that memory, and in the memory, the cache memory starting from set 0 to set 7 along the data. So the data is a 32-bit word. Along the data you are having the tag, and the tag is of size 27 bits. So as I said that when you move the data along the data, you will be moving the tag, also a 27-bit tag, and there is one more field, it is known as V, and that field is known as valid bit. So whether the data inside the cache is a valid data or a meaningless data. Okay, so I'll just repeat it. You are having a cache, an SRAM cache, an 8 entry SRAM cache starting from set 0 to set 7. 8 sets are there, and this is how the data has been arranged. The data is being there. Along a 32-bit data, there is a tag, a 27-bit tag, which is the address tag coming from the main memory, as well as the valid bit, a single bit. Okay, now when the processor gives the address, okay, you can see the memory address at the top. When the processor gives the memory address, it is a 32-bit address. He just gives the address. Now what happens is that the control circuit knows that the last 2 bits is the byte address, and that is always zeros. He will take the next 3 bits from the set. Okay, 3-bit set. At the top you can see that you are having 3-bit set, and now based on that value, uh, this is of size 3 bits, so it can have the values coming starting from 000 to 111. There are 8 possibilities. Based on that, you will be going to the corresponding set. Now from the memory address, the tag 27, the 27 bit tag is been there. Now we are going to check whether that particular address data is present inside the cache. Okay. Now if you see the hit circuitry, it is a AND gate, and one input of the AND gate, the first input of the AND gate is coming from the V value, the valid value. Now you selected a set, and that set value points to the corresponding set, and if that valid bit is 0, which means that you are pointing to an address, a block, a set in which you are having meaningless data. If the V is 0, means that it's a meaningless data, so that 0 will be updated to the AND gate, which means that the AND gate will give you a 0 value, which means that it is a miss. It is not a hit, it is a miss. It will give a hit if that value is 1. Okay. Now suppose if that valid bit is 1. Okay, so one input to the AND gate is 1, that's fine. Now how do you understand whether the data is present or not? Now you have moved a particular set based on the set address. Now the tag, you can see an equality comparator over there. Now you are going to a particular set. Suppose you are going to the set 2. Okay, now you are going to set 2. You check the valid bit. If it is fine, it takes the tag from the cache memory. It is taking the tag from the cache memory as well as the tag given by the processor. You checks both, and if you find that all the 27 bits are same, the equality comparator will give you a 1 value. Now if it is a valid bit, in that case both ones, so both 1 given to the AND gate, it will give a 1 value, which means that it is a hit, means that data is a valid data and that address data is present in the cache, and you can take the data from the data bus, a 32-bit data bus. So that's how you access a direct map cache, and that's how you understand whether it is a cache hit or cache miss. Now we have seen the mapping process. Now when two recently accessed address map to a same cache block, so in that case a conflict will occur. You see, in the example we have seen that the data from the addresses 4, 24, FE4, etc. maps to set 1. So either the set 1 can hold the data from the address location 4 or from 24 or from FE4, etc. Okay, so if you are taking the data from 4 and loading into the cache, so set 1 is having the data from the address 4, and if you want to read the data from 24, you will have to replace the previous address. Why? Because the set 1 can hold only a single block of data. So in that case the conflict will occur. So when a conflict occurs, we need to replace the data. Now we'll see how to do it. Okay, now we'll see an example. We'll see a cache block conflict with respect to the previous diagram. Okay, and now you are going to find the miss rate. Now you can see a program written over there. Now this program is performing an operation, and you can see a loop. So the program is being executed in a loop. So in the loop, the first instruction is BEQ, leave that. The next instruction is LW. You are loading a word and the address is 4. The next instruction is you are loading the word and the address is 24. Now there is a conflict. Okay, so first the cache is being updated with the data from the address 4. Okay, now the cache set 1 is being updated with the data from the address 4. Now in the next line you can see that the address is coming as 24. So definitely the data from the 24 can only go to the set 1. Okay, so that set 1 will be updated. Now we are going to the loop again you will go to the loop, and it says that LW, and you are taking from 4. So previously set 1 was having 24. Now it has to be again updated with 4. So it gets updated with 4, and the next step it again gets updated with 24. So it is a continuous loop. So every time the data in the cache has to be replaced. So in this case definitely you can say that the miss rate is 100%. Why? Because first it loads with 4, okay, and next time when it comes as 24, definitely 4 has to be replaced, then only you can update 24. So this, in this case, the miss rate is 100%. Okay, so in this particular part we are seeing the cache memories, and we are seeing the different methods of write and read policies. We are seeing the cache hit, cache miss protocols, and we are seeing different mapping methods. Out of that we have explained about the direct mapping concept. In the coming sessions we will explain about the n-way associative mapping and multi-associative mapping, and we will see the replacement algorithms in detail. Okay, thank you.